And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome everyone to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region on this Monday, September 8th, 2025. And in the weather-related headlines across the state of Alaska, we do have a stronger area of low pressure that's passed just south of the central and eastern Aleutians with a front extending northeastward ahead of it. And this low has a central pressure down in the 970s millibars. It's accompanied by some gale to lower end storm force winds, and that system is going to be pushing some moderate to heavier rainfall up along the Gulf Coast into the Panhandle as we head through midweek. In the meantime, there's some colder air settling in over the North Slope along and north of the Brooks Range, and there will be some wet accumulating snow, especially there in the Brooks Range and North Slope as we head through later Wednesday into Thursday night, and several inches of wet snow could fall up there. Anatuvik Pass, light clouds and a little light rain, 48 degrees, but by the time we get into Wednesday night and Thursday, we'll likely have snow up there. Dutch Harbor, wind, rain, and fog, 55 degrees. And we have this area of low pressure now passing south of the eastern Aleutians, and it will remain south of the Alaska Peninsula as we go through tonight and into Tuesday. Now, northeastern Gulf Coast, Cape Spencer there, overcast 61, some lower overcast, but you're going to see rains become more steady here for Wednesday. There are a few showers associated with a frontal system that's weakening, pushing into the area of the northern Panhandle, but the main event coming with the Aleutian low front will be arriving early Wednesday morning and continuing into Thursday. Ketchikan, mostly cloudy, 61, a few breaks in the clouds. The southern Panhandle, including Prince of Wales Island, that has seen temperatures at times in the 70s, even some 80-degree plus readings. That's over with now. The ridge of high pressure responsible for that warm, dry period has broken down and shifted southeastward deeper into Canada. But now this is the 4-day precipitation outlook starting from 4 a.m. this Monday morning, September 8th. And this is going to take us through 4 a.m. Friday morning. But the main thing to illustrate is as this front comes up into the Gulf Coast and Panhandle, we find that 2 to 4 inches of rain will be common across coastal areas, locally higher amounts in some of the coastal mountains, especially Yakutat down here outside of Glacier Bay, that area. Could pick up as much as 5 or 6 inches of rainfall with the system. Also, as moisture lifts northward up over the Brooks Range into the North Slope, this is going to be transitioning over from a cold rain to some wet accumulating snow. So anyone up there along the Dalton Highway passing through Adigan Pass, and then any flights for work or for hunting, that sort of thing, just be wary and aware of the fact that inclement weather is coming on in. So right now, the only notice we have is a special weather statement here across the Panhandle, northeastern Gulf Coast for a period of moderate to locally heavy rain coming in early Wednesday through Thursday. So again, I've already kind of highlighted that. And taking a look at the satellite imagery, on this Monday afternoon, we have the stronger low circulation here between Dutch Harbor and Adak, and it's going to continue east-northeastward, passing south of Unalaska and Sand Point. The low center will then, by the time we get into Tuesday night and Wednesday, end up being up here toward the east side of Kodiak Island, and then the low for the rest of the week is just going to kind of wobble here over the western and southwestern portion of the Gulf. But as we get into late Tuesday night, especially during the day Wednesday, that front is going to bump up along much of the Gulf Coast and then begin to try to push inland to the Panhandle as we get into Wednesday, later in the day, Wednesday and Thursday. And it will be accompanied by at least some gale force winds and moderate to locally heavier rain. So here's the low pressure system, still below 980 millibars. It bottomed out around 975 millibars there south of False Pass. And this system has this occluded front that's going to be moving northeastward. Meanwhile, some cooler air is settling into the North Slope thanks to northeasterly winds off the Beaufort Sea coast. And on Tuesday afternoon, the low center's down around 980 millibars there just south of the Alaska Peninsula, heading on up toward Kodiak Island. The stationary front kind of divides cooler air to the north. It's not drastically colder, but it's cold enough that it will help the precipitation change over to snow once more moisture lifts northward. And then along this front, we do expect at the very least some gale force winds or gale force gusts. Locally, there could be some lower end storm force gusts to 50 knots, especially in places where when you have a front to ride north, like outside of Hinchinbrook entrance or just off of Cape Suckling or entrance of Cook Inlet, could see some higher gusts as that front expands north and northeastward. By Wednesday afternoon, the low centers along the east side of Kodiak Island. It's come up a little bit in its central pressure to 987 millibars, but this front will be accompanied by some moderate to locally heavier rainfall all along the Gulf Coast and pushing up into especially the northern portions of the Panhandle. Meanwhile, snow that's out breaking out across the North Slope. You're going to have northeasterly colder winds at the surface and then moisture riding northward over the top of the Brooks Range. So that's what's going to allow that snow to form. And into the day Thursday, still that snow kind of backs up to the north and west here through the western North Slope. So again, several inches of snow could fall in portions of the North Slope between midday Wednesday and through early Friday morning. So by Thursday afternoon, the low center is still just southeast of Kodiak Island, kind of sitting there in the southeast corner of the Gulf with the occluded front running right up along the Gulf Coast with periods of rain and breezy conditions. Meanwhile, it should be a little drier in through the southwest interior because of being on the backside of this low. You're going to have a northeast and northerly cooler flow of air. So here are the temperatures Tuesday morning. We may see lows still above 50 here, Sitka out through the southern part of the Panhandle. Otherwise, lows in the 40s, very common throughout much of the mainland. And as we go further north, notice some temperatures now starting to get down to around or just below freezing along the Brooks Range, like at Adigan Pass or Anatuvik Pass and up there toward Utqiagvik. And then Tuesday afternoon, we could still have a few temperatures around or just above 60, Yukon Flats, Fairbanks, Eagle, Northway. 63 Glen Allen could have some readings around or just above 60. Anchorage Bowl down along the western Kenai. Also, we have some 60s. Could be easily still warmest readings again on Tuesday afternoon will be Ketchikan on over toward Klawock and Craig. Meanwhile, readings kind of just above 50 degrees at St. Paul and down there on Alaska. And then for Wednesday morning, we can see the colder air taking shape here along the Brooks Range and North Slope. That's going to better support that snow as we head through the day Wednesday into Wednesday night. And then lows again generally in the 40s throughout the Yukon Valley, Tanana Valley, and Copper River Basin areas of the Panhandle. Upper 40s to lower mid 50s. And then temperatures Wednesday afternoon, we could still see a few lower 60s, Fairbanks over toward Eagle Northway, flirting with 60 around Anchorage and Glen Allen. And also here, the outer portion of the Gulf Coast and up into southern areas of the Panhandle could still see readings in the lower 60s, with general 50s extending out down along the Alaska Peninsula. It's not possible you could squeak out a 60-degree reading there at Kodiak City. It's going to be close, as again, the low center is going to be literally right there just east of the island. So here is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook September 14th through the 18th. So now this is centered at and just past mid-month. And it's still calling for temperatures to average above normal throughout the eastern mainland, really centered on the southeast mainland that would include the Copper River Basin areas around Prince William Sound, and also extending upward to Northway and Fairbanks east, as well as down here into the northern half of the Panhandle. Meanwhile, because we're likely going to continue to have lows coming up into this region with moisture, so on the backside of the low, the flow, lower level flow is generally northeast to northerly, so that's going to draw down some cooler temperatures along the west side of the state, the Chukchi coast, Kotzebue, Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula, lower Yukon Delta. We would expect temperatures there to average below normal then as we go through the mid-month period. And of course, with that setup, the lows coming up out of the North Pacific and then into the Gulf. It's going to be wet along the Gulf Coast, perhaps centered around Prince William Sound, the Kenai Peninsula, up into the lower Copper River Basin. And then as we look westward and that drier, cooler northeast to north flow along the west side of the state, we'd expect precipitation to average below normal there from the Chukchi coast through the Seward Peninsula down into the lower Yukon Delta.